Welcome to Celtic Medicine Stories, a podcast where we explore stories from the old Celtic lands, with the understanding that they carry medicine for us. I'm your host, Kat Horton, and I offer these stories in the spirit of the oral storytelling tradition of the British Isles. That is, they are free and they're open to everyone, always. Although these stories often have come from another time and have evolved through time with the oral storytelling tradition, they are here still for a reason. If you're curious about going deeper with the story, with the images, symbols, characters, landscapes, sounds, whatever it is that's speaking to you from this particular story, then there are some free resources below which will help guide you in that process. 900 years ago in medieval Wales, an unknown author wrote down tales that have been carried in the oral tradition for at least 2,000 years. Some think this collection of tales, known as the Mabinogion, is much older than that. This story about Pwyll, Prince of Dyfed, is set before the Saxons, before the Romans, way back at a time when the native Brittons roamed freely across most of what is now Wales, England, and Scotland. The Mabinogion are thought to be a collection of teaching tales for young nobles. This first one is a story of male initiation. His mentor shows up as Arawn, King of Annwfn, which is the Welsh Otherworld. Annwfn translates as the very deep or the inner world. This is an encounter with the Magical Huntsman, who shows up frequently in Celtic lore. You may have come across him in other Welsh tales as Gwyn ap Nudd. Whoever wrote down these stories put a Christian veneer on them, but the bulk of them remain decidedly pre-Christian. This is the first section of what is known as the first branch of the Mabinogi, and there are 2 more sections in the branch and 3 more branches. I'll be recording retellings of the other parts over the next few months. I hope you enjoy. So as you listen to this story, as with all these Celtic medicine stories, let yourself float. You don't need to pay attention in the way maybe you were asked to do in school. You don't need to try and follow the plot line or the dialogue or anything in particular. In fact, the medicine lies in what you find yourself attending to. So when you let yourself go into that receptive, floaty state and you find your mind wanting to savor an image or a sound or a word, and you find yourself more engaged with that than whatever it is that I'm saying, then notice that. You don't need to analyze it or try and figure it out in that moment, but just notice it, that called your attention, because that's where the medicine lies. Wherever this story interacts with your story is what you're looking for. And I believe this is part of why these stories have been around for so long, is because they each interact with us in some special way. And so as you listen, just let yourself absorb it and notice which parts stick out to you. Wisdom was his name. The Prince of Dyfed, that's what they called him, Wisdom. Pwyll, in the native tongue of the Brittons at the time. He ruled over the 7 cantrefs of Dyfed. Whenever anyone spoke his name, there were certain people in the court that would roll their eyes, not thinking that this one was particularly wise, but he was young still. There was time. One day he was at his court in Arbroath, and it came into his head and his heart to go hunting. He was restless. He needed to get out. So he gathered a whole group of men and the dogs and the horses, and off they went out into the woods. And they set up camp for the evening. Early in the morning, before the sun was up, they got up and they mustered the hunt. He blew his horn and they all headed out into the woods. And it wasn't too long before Pwyll found that he had become separated from the others. He had his dogs with him and he was on his horse, but he'd lost all the others. He didn't mind too much. He just continued on. And as he came through the woods, he saw in front of him a clearing, and in that clearing, lit by the early dawn sun, a magnificent stag standing there. Ah, Pwyll thought, this is it. I'm going to get this stag. Yes. And as he was just about to call his dogs, he saw from the other side of the forest an entirely new pack of dogs that he'd never seen before. Glorious, shimmering white dogs with red ears and red eyes. These dogs were winding their way through the other side of the clearing. One of them pounced, the others came up around the stag, and with one bite the stag was down. What? What just happened to my stag? So he got a stick and he ran towards the pack of dogs that were on the stag, and he started yelling and waving a stick and shouted those dogs off and called his own dogs. Feeling quite proud of himself now, he looked at his dogs as they started to devour this magnificent beast. He heard a sound behind him and he turned towards the woods, and out from the trees stepped a large man. Long chestnut brown hair tied behind his neck, a long beard to match, and he was dressed in some of the finest grey silk he'd ever seen, leather hunting boots tied up to his knees. "Good morning," said Pwyll. "Who are you in my woods?" And the man said, "I know who you are, Pwyll, Prince of Dyfed. I am king in the lands that I'm from." "Well, what are those lands?" said Pwyll, knowing full well he was within his own territory. "I am Arawn, King of Annwfn." Pwyll felt a clenching in his stomach. "Oh, this is the king of the Otherworld." It started slowly to dawn on him what he'd just done. Arawn went on. "You have served me a great discourtesy, Prince of Dyfed. You chased my dogs off their kill, and now you feed it to your own dogs. What is this?" Yes, sorry about that. Yes, I didn't realize they were your dogs. I'm so sorry. What, my lord, might I be able to do to make up for that?" said Pwyll, wincing. "Well, there is one thing, young man, that you could do that would greatly help me out. You see, in Annwfn I have a rival. His name is Hafgan, Summer Song. Hafgan has the other territory in Annwfn, and he's constantly wanting to fight with me over it, and I'm sick of it. Every year I fight him, and he comes back, and we fight again. And in order to disrupt that cycle, I think you could fight him. So here's what I proposed, that we will shift appearances. You will look like me, and I will look like you. And you will spend a year at my castle in Annwfn. You will have everything you need given to you. My wife will be there with you. All the people that support the castle will help you. They won't know the difference. And a year from tonight, I'm scheduled to fight again with Hafgan. So you will fight with him in my appearance. And what I tell you, Pwyll, Prince of Dyfed, just this one thing that you must remember, that just strike him once. That's all. Trust me, the blow will be fatal. Just strike him once. Can you do that for me?" "Well, yes, if that will make up for this error that I have made this morning. Yes, I will absolutely do that for you." "Okay, then let it be so." Arawn stood on one side of this little stream that was running close to the clearing and instructed Pwyll to stand on the other. Arawn started to mumble under his breath some words Pwyll could not understand, but he felt himself start to lift out of his body, to float across the water. And before he knew it, he was standing on the other side of the stream, looking across to his own body, and Arawn spoke to him through his own mouth. "There, it is done. Go to my castle now, and I will meet you here after you fight Hafgan." Pwyll stammered, "Okay, how do I don't know how to get there." "Get on the horse. The horse will take you." And with that, Arawn turned around and left. Pwyll jumped on the dapple grey horse, and indeed it knew it cantered him through the woods and all the way back to Arawn's castle. And as he rode through the gates of the castle, he couldn't help but be amazed by how glorious this place is, gleaming in the now setting sun. The fires were starting to be lit. Fire torches lit the stone passageway his horse was cantering through. As he arrived at the gates, he dismounted, and a stream of men came to meet him. They helped him dismount. They took his horse. They took care of the dogs. And they helped him undress from his hunting clothes and dress in the most beautiful golden brocaded silk outfit he's ever seen. Quite fabulous. And they walked with him, chatting, asking him how his day was and what had happened. And he stumbled some words as they entered into the great feasting hall where he was seated at the head table, food already laid out on the table for him, mead in his glass. And then in through the door walks Arawn's wife. Gorgeous. Just gorgeous. This woman is shining. He can tell by the way people respond to her that she is well loved and well respected. She's wearing a gown in the same silk brocade gold fabric that he is, and she comes to sit with him. Does not know what on earth to say to her, but fortunately she is a wonderful conversationalist, and she chats away with him about fascinating things and of her day and what's going on, and he quickly gets caught up in talking with her and is feeling quite comfortable now with this wonderful food in his belly and this mead flowing through him, very much enjoying his time talking to Arawn's wife. The musicians are playing, large fires are crackling in the fireplaces in the feasting hall, and he is beginning to think this is going to be fabulous. As the night wears on, people start to trickle out the hall, and it becomes clear to him that it's bedtime. He's feeling quite nervous about this. He follows Arawn's wife up the stairs and into this incredible bedchamber. Huge bed, the pillows fluffed, beautiful blankets, the fire is going. And as he blows out the candle, he gets onto the edge of the bed and just covers himself with the blankets and turns to his back to her and facing outwards. All he can do is just hope she doesn't touch him. Wills himself to sleep. He can't even think about the beauty laying next to him. And every night for the next year, he does the same. He turns his back and he just wills himself to go to sleep. Now, during the day, though, they have these beautiful conversations. They go riding together. He very much enjoys her company. And as he spends time in Arawn's court, in Arawn's body, he becomes aware of how well he is being treated, how people respect him, people like him, they enjoy him, they come for advice, they bring gifts. People travel from across the kingdom regularly to visit with him, seek his counsel, bring him gifts, tell him news of what is going on in his kingdom. And this is quite unusual for Pwyll, but he enjoys it immensely. And throughout this time, he's practicing sparring with the other nobles. He's working on his swordcraft because he knows that this fight is coming up. And as the year draws to a close and the appointed hour approaches, he gets himself ready for this battle with Havgan. He dons his finest armor. He gets his best sword. He kneels down at the large oak tree and says his prayers before he steps towards the ford with the meeting with Havgan. A large crowd has gathered, and they are stamping and drumming and chanting from both sides. It's a raucous, cacophonous noise that is designed to boil the blood. And he starts to feel it. He's hammering his foot on the ground in rhythm with the chants of war. Now, it has already been agreed on that it's only the two of them that will fight. This is not to be a big battle. It is hand-to-hand combat between Arawn and Havgan. They're each on either side of the river, and they step through the ford and meet each other. They lock eyes. And with a blast on the war horn, and with a blast of a horn, They both draw their swords. Pwyll is faster, and with his sword drawn, he brings it down, smashing it through Hafgun's shield and right through his breastplate and into his chest. Hafgun falls immediately. "Well, finish me off then, man. Kill me. You're going to let me just lie here and bleed into the river? Kill me with another blow." The crowd yells, "Yes! Hit him! Hit him again! Hit him again!" It's all Pwyll can do to put his sword back in his sheath, remembering the instructions from Arawn. Puts his sword back in his sheath. He gathers himself, his blood boiling with battle fury, and he turns around and walks away, knowing that he has fulfilled his promise to Arawn. The next day he travels back to the clearing in the forest where they met. And there, as promised, is Arawn. They greet each other warmly. And Pwyll says, "I have done as you have asked." "Then you will be my friend for life," says Arawn. "And I have taken good care of your realm." And they hug, and in that hug, their spirits switch again. Now Pwyll is back in his own body, and Arawn's back in his own body. And they look at each other. "I will see you again," says Arawn, as he turns, gets on his horse, and rides off. Pwyll, by this time, is ready to go home. Now, when he arrives back at his own court, nobody seems to notice. He's just coming back from a day's hunting, and they bring him in, they clean up the horse, and they gather for food. And during this meal, Pwyll takes the time to ask his nobles and those that are key in his court, "Well, how have I been ruling you this last year? How have things been, in your opinion?" And he heard only glowing reports. "Oh, my lord, this year has been incredible. You have been so generous and gracious and so wise this year. We feel something has really shifted for you, and we're very grateful for that. We really appreciate the way that you have been with us this year." And Pwyll, unable to take in their praise, said, "Well, let me tell you what happened." And he tells them the whole story so they know. Meanwhile, back in Annwfn, Arawn is greeted again as he enters the castle. Again, nobody knows anything different. He's just returning home from a hunt. But that night, as he goes up to the bedchamber with his wife, and he props himself up on a pillow and gathers her in his arms and looks into her eyes and kisses her and asks her, "How was your day, my love?" And he sees the tears come to her eyes. "What is it? You don't know how I have longed for this, for you to just do this, to talk to me and kiss me and hold me, and for a year. For a year, Arawn, I've been waiting for this. We usually do this all the time, every night. I've been waiting. Oh, my love, I'm so sorry." And he tells her the whole story. Well, that makes a lot more sense. Okay, well, I can tell you that you have a true friend in the Prince of Dyfed. He did not touch me. Not touch me. This whole year. Arawn gathered that from what she had said and knew in his heart that he did have a true friend. And so it was that the two of them became very good friends. They met many times. They would send each other hunting dogs and horses and hawks back and forth between the two worlds, and they made a strong bond between them. And so it was that Pwyll, Prince of Dyfed, became known as Pwyll Pen Annwfn, head of Annwfn. Thank you for listening to this episode of Celtic Medicine Stories. If you want to go deeper, check out my Working with Archetypes free email course. There's a link somewhere in these notes. You'll find it. And feel free to visit on my website, kathoughton.com, KATHOUGHTON.com. I'd love to hear from you. Go well.